What's up, comic and pop culture fans? This is James with Hunter Comics, and today we're talking about the parts of the hobby that are a total money pit. That being said, they always say owning a boat is a money pit, and I don't own a boat, but I imagine that's the coolest thing you could ever do. So too with comics, if you're having fun, you've won. So even if it is a money pit like these things we're going to talk about today, you've cracked the code if you're having a blast. Who cares if you're losing money? So take this with a grain of salt here. And don't forget about that 50,000 subscriber giveaway coming up. We're giving away the first full appearance of Venom in a 9/8 white pager. And if you can consider joining the channel, it lets me do stuff like this on a full-time basis. I don't think you can do it on the phone. I think you actually have to be on a desktop in order to hit the join button. And this is how it's done. All right, folks, the first one's going to be slabbing every book. Last week, I actually made a video talking about how slabbing in general, even for pretty seasoned hunters and flippers, is not what it used to be, and 9 times out of 10 results in you just churning your wheels. Now, a lot of entry people play it even worse in that they think every book's worth getting graded. And when you're paying grading fees on books with no resale value, oh boy, this is probably the biggest money pit out there. I saw one of the comments on that video was talking about some dude was saying he doesn't do it unless it's going to have at least $200 value before even getting graded. I think he might be onto something. But is he having fun? Am I having fun now that I took a year off pretty much from grading? Not really. Slabbing is really fun. And if you want to do it, good for you. I do think you're definitely going to be blowing a lot of money into the wind, but it's up to you. Next is going to be statues and toys. So especially if you've got a small budget, you kind of have to lock in. When you're so spread out within the hobby, you collect slabs, you collect raws, you collect statues, you collect toys, you collect plushies, Funkos. You got all this money spread out and you're not able to collect one thing really efficiently. That being said, it's been a couple years since I haven't bought statues now, and I have to say, I miss it pretty terribly. Turns out I got a lot of joy out of doing the hot toys and the sideshows and the XMs and all this stuff. But damn if it's not 1,000 times harder to move this stuff than it is comics. Oh boy, let me tell you. When I think about the money I've dropped on statues over the last 8 years, I might go insane. And I'm not delusional. I know I'm not getting that back. Next one's going to be chasing every variant, especially store exclusives that seem to drop their value within just a couple months. There's always going to be exceptions. I think it's because of those exceptions that give people hope that everything can do it. You know, there are certain artists like Art Germ and Adam Hughes that seem to actually retain value. A lot of them don't, though. And you might think even though you have a 1 in 50 of something, that's pretty cool. And maybe it is pretty cool. But let's stop kidding ourselves on that resale value. Next is going to be signature hunting, grabbing SIGs at cons and otherwise. There's those CGC specific signings where they have artists come into house. This is where you can spend a lot of money. And you should know that the aftermarket on this stuff only has a slight boost over the non-signed books. There are, once again, exceptions. Jack Kirby, Stan Lee. There are certain signatures that do amass a larger value, but we got to shatter the illusion that it's a sort of investment. I did this thing a lot, but like some of these on the list, it's one of the most fun. I have a lot of fun chasing down SIGs and the old CGC signature programs. It's been a while since I've done them, but it was a blast. Especially some of these creators, you don't know how long they're going to be with us. So it is kind of fun to get those signatures while you can. I do think it should be a personal thing and kind of ignore the investment angle, but that's definitely a pretty quick way to burn some money. How about buying modern keys too early? So you get some news, you get a trailer, you get some announcement talking about a video game, TV show, movie in which X character from a D tier list is showing up for the first time on the big screen. It's cool, but watch those headlines. A lot of people will grab up that book, whatever it is, and within a couple months, the book's back to normal. I do think there's some characters that have lasting appeal, but for the most part, this whole speculation angle when it comes to these movie announcements definitely can leave you a little bit stuck unless you're able to like maybe flip it around within the same month. My advice to save some money is make a list of those characters that you want to get the first appearance of, and maybe wait till the book comes back down to reality, and then you can strike. Next is going to be spec boxes and mystery boxes. It's a fun gamble, usually not so great on return. A lot of these mystery boxes are loaded up with the ratio variants that I mentioned earlier that do that same thing, where they're valuable initially, but after a few months they slide back down to reality. And now you're left with some stuff that's really not worth what it once was. That being said, there is something really special and fun about mystery boxes. You really don't know what you're going to get, and sometimes you can get a grand slam where you're the grand prize winner. Now, it's like gambling, it's like the lottery. You got a low chance of it, but it's fun. It's fun to be a part of. It's a fun way of being in the community, but expensive. Next is going to be investing in facsimiles. I don't know. After all this time, I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Facsimiles? Facsimiles? I don't know. Reprints. You know, the $4.99 version of the first Justice League, the $4.99 version of the first Metamorpho, the $4.99 version of the first Venom. I'll tell you what, though, it's a cheap way of getting a comic book that is your first appearance. There's not really aftermarket value. A lot of times when there is some aftermarket value, it's kind of being artificially pegged up. And like some of the other stuff we've talked about on this video, it's gonna come back down. I think the facsimiles and stuff is a great idea and definitely a cheap alternative for people who want certain versions of books. It is actually very budget friendly, but the resellability of this stuff, not going to be so easy. Next is going to be Comic-Con exclusives. You ever go early to a Comic-Con and wait in line because you hear some exclusive is popping off? Well, they often lose heat pretty much by the end of the Comic-Con. You know, they're big for a second and then they're done. Like the rest of this list, there's going to be exceptions. Weird Todd McFarlane books that had a 100 print count that got absolutely crazy in the aftermarket. But for the most part, you might burn half a day at the Comic-Con just trying to get this thing. And maybe that's fun. This is one on the list I don't really understand, but I know some people do, and I know some people have fun with it. And if you're having fun with it, you won. So don't listen to me. The last one is going to kind of tie back to number one, paying for overpressing and overcleaning. I'm totally guilty of this. Spending a lot of money trying to chase tiny grade bumps. I've made a couple of videos this past year talking about how I also think the grade bump game is a lot thinner than it used to be. Kind of used to be the case that if you put in the money on cleaning and repressing, you might get a grade bump. Now I feel like it's like 25% of the time. Grading standards are a little tighter than they were in the olden days. So you might visibly, massively improve a book only for it to come back as the same grade. You were expecting a grade bump and it didn't happen. And now you're $20, $30, $40, $100 into a book more just for it to be the same thing. But you do have that immense satisfaction knowing you did just improve a book. So I get the appeal. And I kind of miss doing that. That's another thing in 2025 that I took a back seat on. And I kind of miss seeing a book get a little facelift. Kind of miss it. These are the 9 things that I think are the quickest way to burn your money in the hobby. But then again, it is a hobby. And hobbies are typically not things that are going to return your investment. We're all in this because we love these characters. We're all in it to have some fun, and doing these things are fun. Keep on hunting how you want to hunt. I'll see you at the next video. Some of you know that I have a room set up in an antique shop in New Jersey. Well, I seem to be doing okay because people know me from YouTube. They come and see the stuff. But a lot of the other vendors rely heavily on foot traffic. And there has been construction not only blocking the sideway, but actually so far as blocking the entrance of our stinking building for like 3 months now. Most people know to come and park somewhere else, but it's really hurting the foot traffic for the other vendors. So for the foreseeable future, to help the other guys out in this building, I'm just gonna say that if you get at least one thing from any other vendor, all my $10 and under stuff is going to be 30% off.